Hi everyone, and welcome to issue 32 of Warhammer Imperium. This week we get a Kataphron Destroyer. Let's crack open the bag. So one magazine, one miniature. Let's square up again, so we'll put the plastic to one side for now. And let's get into the magazine. So, Kataphron Destroyer, read about humanity's past. Rules for Adeptus Mechanicus units. So, Kataphron Destroyers, straight off we're into the info sheet. This is classed as a troops choice, apparently, according to the magazine header, or index. Tracked siege berserkers. Or rather breakers, I should say. Kataphron Destroyers are battle servitors armed with an array of heavy weapons. With the aid of these machines, an Adeptus Mechanicus tech priest can take on enemy vehicles, alien monsters, and fortified positions without risking his Skitari in a direct assault. So, Kataphron Plasma Culverin. Plasma culverins are exceptionally destructive weapons that are particularly effective when directed against massed ranks of infantry. Okay, fair enough. You have your battle record. Now, ancient and arcane. Tech priests' strange rites, biomechanical servants, and ability to operate incomprehensible devices make them figures of awe and fear across the Imperium. So, information on servitors, electro priests, Onaga dune crawlers, and Iron Strider engines. They look cool. I'm not an AdMech player, but I may just get one of these to add into the troops that we're getting with Imperium, just because it looks fun to build. And why else would you need? What other reason would you need to do that? Legacy of Strife, Imperium 09. Mankind survived the ravages of the Age of Strife in fragmented and desperate fashion, emerging from its shadow and into the Emperor's light as a species much changed. Shunning of Psychers and hatred of Xenos. So it looks like an Inquisitor there. We then get our How to Build Kataphron Destroyer. And it looks like it's suggesting sub-assemblies for painting, which is great. And it does look relatively easy to put together. So it's suggesting build with the Plasma Culverin. So that's fine. And then obviously go into how to paint. We get 60mm base with this one. So Corn Red, Nuln Oil, Rakar Flesh, Morfang Brown, Rune of Brass, Lead Belcher, Agrax Earthshade, Abaddon Black, Corax White. Yeah, cool. It's looking good. Right, Canticles of the OMNISSIAH. Adeptus Mechanicus rules. Now, Canticles of the OMNISSIAH are psalms and hymns chanted by the Adeptus Mechanicus as they go to war. They bolster the machine spirits of the cybernetic legions, enhancing their combat ability. So, it says here, if all the units in your army have the Adeptus Mechanicus keyword at the start of each battle round, you may activate one Canticle. Canticles only affect units with the Canticles of the OMNISSIAH ability on their datasheet. For example, the Kataphron Destroyers. for the rest of the battle round, that canticle is active for your army. Once a canticle has been activated, it cannot be activated again in the same game. Shroud Psalm, Incantation of the Iron Soul, Chant of the Remorseless Fist, Litany of the Electromancer, Benediction of the OMNISSIAH, Invocation of Machine Vengeance. And then it gives you a quick tutorial. We have Kataphron Destroyers, 7 power, 6-inch movement, 4+ weapon skill, 4+ ballistic skill, strength 5, toughness 5, wounds 3, attacks 3, leadership 7, save 7. Save 3+. Okay, excellent. Kataphron Destroyers. So whenever you get heavy grav cannon, and which is supposedly coming in a later issue, and you get the Kataphron Plasma Culverin. Now the Culverin, when it fires, has a random number of attacks, and you roll a specific number . Okay, so when it's 1 to 5 models, the Adeptus Mechanicus player rolls a d6 to determine the number of attacks. 6 to 10 models, roll a d6 to determine the number of attacks. Even if the result is 1 or a 2, the minimum number is always 3 attacks. 11 models, do not roll to determine the number of attacks. Instead, make the maximum number of attacks the weapon allows, which is 6. So there you go, you get some auto attacks depending on unit size. And then we have another scout mission, which is the Overlord's Advance. Necrons. Right. Necron Overlord's forces have been stalled by a determined Imperial defence. As the Necron advance falters, Imperial reinforcements continue to trickle into position, breaking through the Necron blockade and bringing with them supplies and weapons of war. Frustrated by his underlings' lack of success, the Overlord has opted to lead the next assault personally, trusting that his intimidating presence will inspire his legions and intimidate his foes. Necrons Overlord breakthrough. If they are to achieve victory over their Martian foes, the Necrons must break through the Bastion Tyrix's walls and establish a foothold within the fortress. The Necron Overlord intends to lead this strike personally, directing his phalanxes with precise command protocols and cutting down the enemy with his Void Scythe. Adeptus Mechanicus Tech Priest Dominus besieged. The Martian defenders of Bastion Tyrix are well armed and dug in. They must utilise the plentiful cover that separates them from the Necron foe and hold back the Overlord's advance. If the Necrons breach the fortress, the position will become untenable and the Imperium will be forced to withdraw. So another scout mission, Relentless Assault. Mission briefing, Necrons surge forward towards the Adeptus Mechanicus position. Skitarii Rangers scurry to barricades and ruined walls, preparing to repel the Necron attack. Forces in play, 1 Overlord, 10 Necron Warriors, 5 Immortals, Adeptus Mechanicus, Tech Priest Dominus, 10 Skitarii, 1 Kataphron Destroyer. So there you go. And we're using one of the large pale grey battle mats. Looks like we've got one of the scenery pieces from the previous issue, and 2 armoured containers and some crates and barrels. So there you go. 33 is paint and 34 is more scenery. Brilliant. Right, let's bring you down and we'll have a look at the plastic. Ta-da! Hey, now looking at the plastic. So you get a 60mm base. If you so wish, I mean obviously if you don't want a boring old base, you could, obviously you can buy additional bases from eBay, like I have a couple. These are for something else within my Tau army when I get round to building them, but you can buy different bases if you want to have something a little different. So looking at this now, obviously these are I think these are 3 sprues, and excuse me, and what we have is one of the destroyers. Now we should have another sprue, and then we'll get another sprue. So this sprue that I have does not give me a mould date at this time, which is a shame. So I can't tell you exactly when this was first made, but looking at the unit, it looks good. I'm liking it. It's obviously a newer mould by the way that everything is packed onto this. Some quite delicate details. We've got some individual grab handles just here that will need to be removed very delicately from the sprue to be put on. Little grab arms and bits and pieces. We have the torso of the construct here. That looks to be the head. And looking at the body, I mean, this is the upper part of the tracked unit. These are the tracks. They look good. We've also got some armour skirts here. So I don't know if these are optional or whether they have to be put on. But it looks like the inside of the track area is fully detailed. So these may be optional, you never know. But yeah, it looks good. It looks good. Join me in a few minutes and we'll build it. Alright, see you in a sec. We're going to start off by doing the track base. Now, straight off the bat, there is a typo in the instructions, and that is that these 3 pieces are labelled incorrectly. Well, 2 of them are labelled incorrectly. Basically, you have 1, 2 and 3, and what they've done is this is actually piece number 3 and this is actually piece number 2. So these are 1 and 2 and this is 3, but in the instructions it goes 1, 2, 3. There is another potential typo later on which I'll point out. But let's get some glue on this, shall we? And looking at the way that this goes together, you are really going to have to make sure you put all the pieces in the right position. They're only going to go in one way, but they're a little bit awkward. To make sure that they get in position and then stay in position. And then this piece goes in, and just make sure that the underneath is glued properly, and then put some on there, and then essentially I can come in and make sure that that is done. Now you then have the front glasses of this, and you have 2 towing eyes. I'll call them towing eyes because there's only 2 of them, and if they were lifting eyes you'd probably need 4. But you need to check and make sure you get these round the right way in order to slot into position. Just be aware, these are super fiddly little bits. So I do suggest putting glue in the first one and then doing the second one. Now I think, as I mentioned earlier on in the video, these are only being done as destroyers, and we're having the plasma culverin or calverin. Now I did look up, and I'll put a link to the destructions. I did look up the destructions for the Kataphron Destroyers and the breaches, and basically you do have some options there. Like, for example, in the standard instruction sheets, you have some options with what goes on this back plate here, and how you do different weapons fits. Now, all being well, I will show you how I'm going to magnetize this so that I can swap out the different weapon options. So the article in the magazine says to build this as sub-assemblies. So this is your first sub-assembly, the track bed. And then what we're going to be doing is building the servitor unit that sits on top of that. And this starts off with the turntable cradle. So this is ever so slightly keyed, so just be careful, because it is gonna, if you don't pop it in properly, it will pop out of position like so. But it is ever so slightly keyed. Now I'm going to try and find some magnets that I can pop in there, so that I can magnetize the base and it can then rotate. We're then going in for a sub-assembly of the torso, and that just basically goes together like so. So voila. And then you pop this into this. Now, this is keyed here. There's a little key lug, so you get it in the right position, because it needs to be able to sit like so, so that all these little bits of tubing and pistons around the bottom edge line up. Once it's in position, and this is the beauty about the plastic weld, is that I can literally just pop on a little dab, and then that glue, by capillary action, will seep into all the little nooks and crannies. Now, we're then going to pop on the backpack, and first of all we need to glue the top tank on. Which goes on like thus. and then it glues into position, and again it is keyed so that it will, once you slide it into position, that's it, it's in position. So bingo. Right, so that's in place. And you've got just at the top of the neck here, these tubes need to go into the top of the neck, and then we can pop on the head. So there is your current assembly for the servitor, and then he will sit into his turret ring like so. I do need to pop on this little, it's like a little door handle, is the best way to describe it. That just needs to go on. Now, once this glue has gone off, it will be strong enough for me to just file that down so that I can pop in a tiny magnet, and hopefully a magnet in here and a magnet in the two weapon arms, because these weapon arms will go on like so. Oops. Will then allow me to swap those fits out. And what I'm going to do is, now this was another thing, in the instructions you can see it just here, it says part 55 to glue into here. I couldn't find a part 55 on the sprue. I found part 54, so I don't know if we will get part 55 in the next issue that we get Kataphron Destroyers with, or if that's a typo. But for now, I've left it off. So I'm not gluing on any weapons. And when we come to the weapon arm itself, this is built up from several parts. So we have this part of the body, and then this forms part of the turret, not the turret ring, but the ring. I think it goes that way, so the claw faces forward, and it goes on like so. Now, this part of the weapon I am going to glue onto the servitor, and the reason I'm going to do that is because there's a pipe which comes off of this and goes into the body of the servitor. So this would be difficult to keep magnetising. Plus I think you only get one of these, which is what the weapons go into. So this is the plasma culverin. And as you can see, this is the square end here that will go into the mounting station for the weapon on the servitor. And I'll show you that once the glue is set. Now you need to get these round the right way, because they will only go on one way. Basically one of the little tabs here is longer than the other, and it goes towards the front of the weapon. And it has some tiny little lugs coming out the bottom, and they need to face down, as best I could work out on the instructions. Actually, looking at this, one side goes down and one side goes up, because it won't fit any other way. Okay. Right. So now this will marry into the housing like that. And what I intend to do is pop a magnet in there and a magnet in there, so that when I swap the weapons out, they will sit like so. This then sits on the weapon arm for the servitor there, like that. So this will remain in place, but I will be able to swap out the weapon bodies. So as I was saying, the plasma culverin, I forget what it's called, goes in, and it's quite snug, but I'm still going to glue, magnetise, just for that added security. And then this is the grav weapon, and again that slots in quite nicely. The other two weapons are slightly different, and they have a different weapon housing for the breaches. But again, it's similar in that this part will glue onto the side of the servitor, and then I will magnetise to be able to swap the weapons out like so. Let's have a look. Do you know what? I think I can get away with potentially gluing this on, because I'm not actually going to be drilling anything in this weapon arm mounting. So I can glue that on, and then you have a piece of pipe which comes out the back here, so you need to make sure you get that right. Position that correctly, because it goes up into this drum on the back, servo drum on the back. So gluing that into place like so, and the weapon arm is in position. So yeah, there you go, that's everything. That's your Kataphron Destroyer done, and that's how it goes in, like thus. I'm going to try and mount some magnets in there and to the bottom here so that I can rotate, and then I will magnetize the weapons fit so that I can swap these out, and obviously swap out the arms here as well, because we have a almost like a heavy stubber that can go on to in position to the heavy flamer instead. So there you go, one Kataphron Destroyer. Alright, join me in the next video. Take care, bye bye. Right, so just quickly, I did magnetise, and I will go through the magnetisation process a bit later on, but this is my destroyer that I've started painting. You can see I've put the magnets inside, and what I've done is basically stuck a little bit of plastic in there first, then put the magnet on top, and then just basically made sure that it was the right height to put another magnet on top from the base of that, and that gives me this. My weapon arm options here are magnetised, and the main weapon is also magnetised, so I can change out both weapon types if I so wish. Like so. And then I also got an extra kit to make a breacher, and again I've magnetised the weapon arms, so this one is magnetised here and a smaller magnet there, and then this main weapon arm I was able to magnetise so that I can swap out the weapons, and also the claw arm, and again this one is magnetised on the inside so that I can do turntable. So there you go, that's how I did it.